Hey guys, welcome to day one of a Fat Loss Fundamentals program. Now my goal over the next few days is to bring you on a journey in regards to training, nutrition, and give you the most applicable information you need to lose fat, tone up, and create your ideal body. Too many times people are looking for information when it comes to fat loss, and as the saying goes, you're asking someone the time and they are telling you how a watch works or a clock works. So we will break down the most important scientific information, put it in a way you can understand and apply straight away after watching this video. We are going to go over the different modalities when it comes to training, HIIT training, interval cardio, weights, what you need to be doing and how to put it in an overall structure of a plan. We will look at your nutrition, calories, macros, and what areas you need to be focused on when it comes to that and clear up some of the myths out there. We will look at some habits, some psychology, and then we will look at how to put it into an overall plan, as I said, and how to adjust your plan as you go if you're not losing fat or you hit a fat loss plateau. Now in today's video, what we're going to look at is our calories. Calories basically mean the energy that is in food. When it comes to fat loss, there is one and only one way to lose fat, and that is to achieve what's called a calorie deficit. A calorie deficit is basically when you are burning more calories than you're taking in. It doesn't come down to carbohydrates, it doesn't come down to fats, it doesn't come down to if you're detoxing or your hormones or anything like that you've probably heard or read. It just comes down to a calorie deficit. There was a professor who basically went out to prove that it did. Professor Mark Helb, I think his name is. I think he was from Stanford. And he ate only nothing but Twinkies, I think, and just sugary foods. And by controlling his calories, he lost like 20 pounds in a few weeks. So that just proves it that way. How many calories do you need? I hear you shouting. Come on, Sean, get on with it. So there's a cool little equation to calculate your calorie deficit. There's no point spending hours on really complex equations. I just like to start off with this really basic one, and then we can adjust up or down as needed as we go. The number a calorie deficit equation will give you is just a guesstimate, and then we have to see, is it working? If it isn't, then we can adjust, and I'll show you how to do that as we go. So to get your calorie deficit number, get your body weight in pounds. So for people on different metrics, if it's in kilos, multiply that by 2.2. And now we're going to multiply that number by 10 if you are relatively sedentary. So let's say relatively sedentary means you do less than 10,000 steps per day. Or 12 if you're relatively active. Let's say you do more than 10,000 steps per day. Normally around that number, 10 to 12 times body weight in pounds, is the majority of people's calories deficits. That's just a good way I've used. There may be a person out there that is really inactive, maybe overweight as well. And for that person, we could potentially look at body weight in pounds times 8. But for the majority, stick between that 10 and 12 number. This is a starting amount for your calorie deficit, as I said. So you will basically weigh in when you start. You'll do your measurements. You'll do your pictures. You'll start on those calories. Give it 2 to 4 weeks, depending. Reassess. Has your measurements gone down? Has your weight gone down? Your pictures look better? If they don't, then we will adjust it from there, which I'll explain in later videos. One thing you need to know is that more is not always better. So if I give you a calorie deficit, for example, 1,500 calories, there's no point eating 750 trying to lose twice as much as fat, because for the majority of people, they're going to end up getting too hungry, and when you push too hard against your body, it's going to backfire. So moderate approach, keeping a hunger and all these things in check, which we will look at. Doing that for a long period of time, that's how you achieve phenomenal results. The next important point after calories are macronutrients. Macronutrients basically meaning your proteins, your carbs, and your fats. Like I've talked about, a lot of people went through a low carb era or a low fat era and they think these are the things. No, it comes down to your calories. But what we do want to focus on within our macronutrients is our protein intake. One of the reasons for this is when we lose weight, there is a big potential for our body to start breaking down muscle tissue to use for other more important processes in the body. To protect against that, we need to make sure we're getting enough protein in so our body won't break that muscle tissue down. There's a difference between fat loss and weight loss. Fat loss is primarily looking at only losing fat tissue and maintaining muscle tissue, muscle tone. Whereas weight loss, you're not concerning yourself. You're primarily looking at the number on the scale and you don't know if you're losing lots of muscle tissue. The difference after is someone concerned with losing fat and maintaining muscle, they're going to look more toned, tight, they're going to have a smaller physique, versus someone who only concerns themselves with weight loss. After, they're probably going to look a bit saggy, they're just going to look like a smaller version of themselves. They haven't toned up, they haven't created that shape, because muscle tissue is basically the thing underneath the skin that keeps that tight toned. That's one, if not the main reason for that. Other reasons, such as when we lose muscle, it keeps your metabolism high, so when you lose it, your metabolic rate's going to drop. And they've also seen when you lose a lot of muscle tissue, say for example the Biggest Loser, if you lose say 5 kilos of muscle, your body's more likely to put that on through gaining 5 kilos of fat, because it always wants to stay around the same homeostatic point. So that's obviously not what we want, among plenty of other factors. To find out how much of protein we need per day, I like to use your body weight in kilos times 2. Okay, simple equation. I'm 80 kilos, multiply by 2, and the last time I checked, that's 160. There is 4 calories per gram in protein and carbs, and actually 9 calories per gram of fat. You will multiply 160 times 4. That's the amount of calories I will need from protein, minus that number from your total amount of calories, and that's the amount of calories you have left to make up through carbs and fats. As stated, we don't really need the total amount of carbs and fats primarily. When someone would look at that is if they have a preference for eating higher carb diet or a lower carb diet, and that will come down to what you feel better on, energy wise, fullness wise, digestion wise, and if you have any other factors that you need to look at. But what I would say is just divide those up equally. That's the remaining calories after you minus the protein, and as you go on your plan and you start eating, you can see what works best for you. How do we know how many calories we're eating? There's lots of softwares out there or websites. I like to use MyFitnessPal. It's pretty easy for the majority of my clients, so sign up for that. You can sign in through Facebook, lots of different means. You don't need the premium version, so don't worry about that. Now we're going to take these numbers, so our calories and our protein, fats and carbs, we're going to go into the goals section of MyFitnessPal, then go into calories, carbs and fats. I would given you your calorie goal, or you would have calculated that, put that in and type those numbers in and use it into that section. Then from there, start to track your food. Don't concern yourself with the most accurate forms of tracking. Try to do your best, but if you've come from a background where you're not tracking, and this is a really easy way to first of all clean up your diet, and it's going to result in you eating less calories most of the time starting off. So start to track in that. We will have a video in the series on how to track a little bit more within MyFitnessPal, but for now, use those numbers, calculate those numbers, drag them into MyFitnessPal, start to track, and watch out for tomorrow's video, day 2.